Sales of existing homes in the U.S. jumping to a near 14-year high last month. The new numbers out from the National Association of Realtors pointing to a 2.4% jump, with 6 million units sold, and competition certainly heating up. Just 22 days to sell a home in August. Let's bring in Jeff Taylor. He is the co-founder and managing director at Digital Risk, a Mortgage Bankers Association board member as well. Jeff, it's great to have you on today. You know, the resilience of the housing market, certainly one that we have really documented over the last 6 months or so. But there's got to be some concern here about the inventory and just the prices that are continuing to tick higher with so much demand in the market.
So, you know, it's a great point. Like you just said, if you look at from June to July, it rose 24% month over month as far as existing home sales. The national median of home sales hit 300,000 for the first time ever. But it's a combination of a lot of things that's doing that. One, you have historically low interest rates currently, and you're looking at a lot of families who are saying, look, my rent might have been, I'll give an example, $2,200. Because rates are so low, if I can now move out to the suburbs and pay $1,800 and get a house I want that more fits my family needs since the pandemic started, i.e. work from home office, place for the kids to potentially do virtual school, all those things are driving the market on top of what was already the tightest housing market we'd had in the last 25 years going into the pandemic.
How should we be looking at the demand for these existing homes right now? Are these, to your point, a lot of new home buyers who are just over the last 6 months realizing after spending so much time in their rental units that it's better to put their money to owning something than actually renting? How much of it was that pent-up demand that we had before that you just alluded to, with the inventory picture not really changing at all?
So it's a great question, right? So let's go back to June of 19 when we saw the first interest rate drop, and then by the end of the year, we already had 3/4 of a point. I think the existing housing demand was already unbelievably tight. But what is a major catalyst was there was a lot of people who worked in major cities who said, look, I need to be here for my job. What we have all realized to some degree in our work lives is that ability to work from home, either a percentage of the time, a lot more, has drastically shifted. So you've taken what was already a tough market and then have a whole population that might have said, hey, just because of my job, our schools, we're going to be in these major cities for years coming, and said, you know what? I now have the flexibility to think broader. Do I want to be able to get into a house? Do I want to be able to design my new house? And that's been a major thing that's changed in the last 6 months.
And Jeff, we've talked so much about this move to the suburbs. We've certainly seen the price increase on that front, but I am curious about what we're seeing in the cities, because we've heard about rental rates dropping really drastically in places like where we are in New York City, places like San Francisco. What about the homes that are on the market in these major cities? Are we seeing demand on that front, or is the demand largely just focused on the suburbs?
So to your point, I think major cities, especially New York, the apartments specifically are probably down 15, 20% from where they were 6 months ago. And that's the big question. Is that going to come back, in a year or 2 years? And I think that's going to be a real TBD. It's directly related to the affordability that the work environment provides people to be able to move out, potentially have a better quality of life, and still, make the incomes they were making and meet the job requirements by being within the city. So it's in flux right now. But even during the financial crisis, the New York, San Francisco, renting real estate, they took a hit, but not a huge hit. We've already seen that more drastic in the first 6 months than we saw in the 5 years of the financial crisis.
So let's talk about the inventory, because the limited inventory certainly is what's driving the prices higher at such a rapid rate.
Yeah.
Inventory down 18.6% year on year in August. I mean, what are the prospects here if you've got these viewers who are saying, well, I do want to own a home, but is there going to be more inventory on the market if I say wait 6 more months?
So that's a great question. Let's tie this to the home builder sentiment. You saw Lennar come out last week, and they had record earnings. So the home builders are not only expanding in the footprints that they had right now to build, many of them are doubling down for different houses because they're realizing that demand's online of, okay, I can move to the suburbs, I can design my high-tech office, I can design my high-tech school for my children, and I can get it at a rate that maybe I didn't think I could afford because interest rates have dropped over a point in the last 12 months. So I'm really looking to the home builders is really we're going to be where the new inventory is coming from that's going to meet the ever-growing demand for not just the first-time home buyers, but the move-up home buyers and the change of lifestyle home buyers that are all kind of colliding right now at the same time.
What about the issue of foreclosures? We have heard a lot about the moratoriums that have kept a lot of these homeowners in place, able to stay in their homes with that payment not due several months down the line. And yet you have to wonder, if you couldn't pay 3 months ago, you certainly aren't going to be able to pay 6 months from now. Is that like a great question? Inventory in a big way?
My answer is no, it's not going to increase inventory in a big way, but let me give you the dynamics why it's not going to be. In the last 8 years, the mortgage products that were out there and people bought their houses, they built up a tremendous amount of home equity. So even if they're at a point now where they've been in deferrals for 3 to 9 months in forbearance, and they get to a point where they finally realize that life situations are such that we're going to go in and sell that house, there's enough home equity in those houses. And home price appreciation has maybe dropped 1% this year. So it's not like it's down 15%, that they're going to be most likely to make a decision to put that home on the market and sell it versus going through the entire foreclosure process and walking out with nothing. That's a very different dynamic that was in the 2008 crisis than today.
Yeah, certainly an interesting dynamic to continue to follow there. Jeff, really good insight. Jeff Taylor is a co-founder and managing director at Digital Risk.